What's it to ya, punk? This is Brian Vaughn. This is Bootu Boys podcast. It's Motion Picture Men right now because we're covering movies, but I'm just trying to get into the attitude of Turbulence 3 Heavy Metal, the movie we're covering. So
you sounded too mean if you're trying to get into the correct attitude for John Mann.
That's Spencer Hendricks. Van Lee, what can I do for you?
Let's do the hustle, baby.
Yeah. We're covering this Plane movie about a makeup rock star named Slade Craven who is giving his final concert on an airplane. He's getting ready to come back out on stage. But before we actually resume the plot, guys, I want to check in with everybody. How are you guys doing? If you can remember back to the first time you saw Turbulence 3, at this point in the movie, you're probably sitting, what, an inch, 2 inches from the screen?
Right. Mm-hmm. I couldn't stop myself from chanting, Craven, Craven, Craven.
I think we've all been there. It's kind of a national experience, a shared experience.
I take umbrage with the fact that you refer to this as a plane movie.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we can say that. There's a plane involved.
What do you mean? There's like 100 exterior shots of a fake plane in a fake sky.
What would you call this? Like, not a heist movie.
Well, this is I mentioned this in the first episode. It's like 5 things. It is kind of a music movie thing. There's a full performance in it.
Yeah.
It's kind of a plane movie. It's kind of a hijacking/terrorism movie.
Hijacking. I think I'd go with that.
No, it's also a hacking movie.
There are no snakes on this plane, though. We need to get that out there.
Yeah, and I did find that disappointing. I think there's an opening. I think Slade's show could have had some snakes, and some of them get loose. One of them jumps out of a toilet, bites a guy in the dick. It's just like snakes on a plane.
Sure, one of them gets thrown in the microwave, and the guy says, "Ha ha, who's your daddy now, bitch?"
That kind of thing does not happen in Turbulence 3.
And I do think Samuel L. Jackson actually does yell at the snakes, "Screw your miserable souls," at one point.
Samuel L. Jackson being in this movie would be incredible. Hear me out. Samuel L. Jackson in the Rutger Hauer role. If Rutger Hauer wasn't there, probably pretty awesome.
I don't know, though, because Rutger Hauer's character is so calm this whole movie. He just seems so mellow, and I don't think Samuel L. Jackson can do that.
Or you could bring in the pilot from Snakes on a Plane, David Koechner, and put him alongside Rutger Hauer.
You know, if you just shave that middle patch of this other co-pilot's head that's with Rutger Hauer, he's got a little Koechner going on. Probably, I'll say it, not as charismatic an actor, not as good.
He has a little bit of his demeanor is a little bit like Jerry in Parks and Recreation. Like,
sure.
He's just a little bit
bumbling a little.
And he's so boring.
But polite.
He's so standard.
And Rutger Hauer, one of the ways you could interpret his reaction to his co-pilot, to the main pilot actually, is that he's kind of like, loser. You know what I mean? Like, because the main pilot is kind of bumbling and Rutger Hauer is so chill in this movie.
He's so cool.
Despite all the non-flashbacks.
He takes that as a calming thing, I guess.
Right, yeah. I think his non-flashbacks make him happy.
It makes you
like
wonder,
it does to so many soldiers.
Was he just there on vacation or something?
That's what he means. He went in like 2000, or he went in like 1998. Yeah. He's like, the beaches are wonderful.
My wife loved it. Well, we're here to finish up the rest of this movie. I mentioned that when we last left off, we were awaiting Slade Craven to retake the stage because he had gone off after his first song. Well, he's not on the stage yet, but the rest of his band is, and they're just, for, I guess, minutes, hours on end, just playing the same repetitive house music. The drummer, a couple of times, it will flash to him, and a drum fill happens in the soundtrack, and he's just sitting on his stool, not moving anything. And it's pretty awesome.
Well, it's like Milli Vanilli. Sometimes you got to it's more about the performance than the actual music.
Sure.
So you just have the piped in.
It's more of a visual thing. And this drummer, for some reason, gave me a little bit of Lars Ulrich-ness in that he seemed like a little guy and back there kind of with a determined look on his face, like he would hate it if you did file sharing.
Is he the one with the little cowboy dumb hat?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I get it. Yeah. I see that.
See what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. But he's got lip rings.
Well, yeah.
Because he's metal.
Of course he has a lip ring. It's 2000. There was a confusing time between emo and metal at the time, so he's like, whatever, I'll get a lip ring, and it is a piercing. I'm covered either way.
What are those piercings where it's just like a dot? Not in the nose.
I don't know
but
what
it's like a dot on the lip.
What are those called?
Dot. That's all I've got.
Yeah. It's always confusing because I think it's like what are they, like a beauty mark? Is that what those are called? Or a mole or a freckle, but it's like a piercing.
They turn in like the sun, their face is glimmering a little bit. It's kind of strange.
Well, that's how you could use it as a weapon to potentially blind an opponent. While Craven's band is doing their little house music playing, it should be noted the crowd is still very into this. They're actually standing up now. Like they're kind of dancing and stuff, and you'll hear occasional like hooting and hollering.
I think this is a big part of what they came for. What they wanted to come to the show for is to hear all this little kind of distraction music.
Well, that could be a commentary on modern culture and the disdain for art too, in that someone gives a performance of a constructed written piece, but really people just want to talk over nothing to one another.
That sounds nice.
Not to me.
That's wonderful. Well, you know what I'd like to do is pull out my iPad and record it at the same time too.
You know what my favorite album is? Lo-Fi Beats to Chill and Study To playlist on Spotify. I like music. I have an axe to grind. But back to the movie, where axes aren't ground, and they should be. This is the kind of theatrical show where you could have an axe on stage.
Are you implying they're aerial if they're not ground? Huh? See what I did there?
Well, everything in this is
aerial.
I was
thinking of like fresh ground pepper. Like, would you like any axe on your salad?
Oh, yes. I'll have the baked ziti if you could put some all of your various cheeses, and if you could grind some axe on top of that.
Really like that alongside the Parmesan, if you will.
Cheesy axe.
This is a wonderful vintage battle axe I've seen here.
You could have also named one of these band members axe.
Yeah, that'd be perfect.
They should all be named Craven like the Ramones. We don't know that they're not.
True.
Actually.
They only say one name, and that's the one who R.I.P.
Well, yeah.
That concept applying throughout music history, like Slash, the great drummer, or whatever, would be an incredible thing.
In the middle of just kind of this aimless playing, Slade's back. He's finally here again, and he looks like he's a man on a mission. And guess what starts? Craven chants. Probably that bucket hat guy's out there starting it.
Craven, Craven, Craven.
He's a babe! Whenever Slade's guitarist says, "Hey man, where's the words?" Which I guess means, hey, are you going to sing or are we going to actually start the song? My hand's aching from playing the same two chords back and forth over and over again. I'm going to develop arthritis.
Where's the words?
And Slade responds the way anyone would. He shoves his bandmate, pulls out a gun and says, "Words mean nothing. This means something." And that's exactly how intimidating it is. No one thinks that this is a normal course of behavior. This isn't part of the script because the whole band is confused. That's the big giveaway here. And Nick the hacker back in his condo tells Kate, "That's the same gun from the shooting earlier that I can see on 2001 internet video clarity."
Oh man, that 480i really shows everything.
And it's probably not even that, is it? I mean, who knows what that is? 2001. Nick already senses something is amiss. Same gun from earlier. Is Slade a fucking murderer of his own bodyguard? Who's the bodyguard's bodyguard? Who bodyguards the guard's body?
We got there.
Yep, sure.
Nick the hacker is such a Slade Craven fan that he knows instantly something's amiss here. He just knows.
It couldn't be that Slade just is a bad guy. And you can see how this line of thinking takes someone in a dangerous direction should their favorite artist be accused of something nefarious. Slade, meanwhile, is parading around the stage, perhaps even more theatrical than before, waving his gun around, saying things like, "Who's next? I hate everyone," and sort of rubbing the gun on people, including the bucket hat instigator, who I think likes it. I'm not sure. The pilot is down here. He's checking on everyone just as Rutger Hauer asked him to, and unwittingly, normal pilot becomes part of Slade's show. The end result is a blank gets fired into the pilot. It's again just another stunt. Ha ha. The crowd's relieved. They think it's cool. And Benny, back at the old Z-Web HQ, he's like, "Oh, hell yeah, look how many skulls are dropping from the skull counter." People love this.
I can't do that high pitch. Fuck it.
Yep. Well, Van has the right idea, which is, we introduced this last episode, which is the Turbulence 3 heavy metal skull tracker, which tells you how many people are watching Slade Craven's concert at any given time. Skulls fall down. When the number goes up, it goes whoop, and that's what's happening here. So that's why Benny's excited.
I believe you said it best last episode when you said it goes up like a boner.
And down like a deflate boner.
Is there an anti-boner?
No, that sounds like it goes
the anti-boner,
like it does what boners do, except into your body, which sounds kind of scary.
Like it goes up.
Yeah.
Oh, so it's rigid but inside.
Yeah. See,
That's
like
that
a
sounds
duck.
a lot worse than when it just deflates like it does.
A recessor. I don't know.
Did you say like a duck?
Yeah, don't those go in there?
No, they have corkscrew penises.
Yeah, but they're not out. They're not just ready to open a bottle of wine.
I don't know
That'd be
that
pretty cool.
for a fact.
Well, you've seen ducks out. and about, right?
But maybe flaccid duck is so flaccid and small, you just don't see anything. It's in the feathers.
And it's like in the forest, a new tree that's been planted. You wouldn't see it from a helicopter.
But you don't see it until it grows into a mighty oak.
Or a mighty corkscrew
oak.
Duck dick.
Ducks are rapists.
If you're, this is a good...
It's true. Ducks will rape anything. They fuck dead ducks. They fuck lady ducks. The reason this happened is that lady ducks were getting raped too much, so they grew like a hard-to-get-to vagina that they have to be in the mood for it to reach.
Well, that's good.
And then the ducks, the male ducks, they grew a corkscrew penis like evolutionarily to get around that.
What?
Because ducks are rapers.
That's awful.
This is hilarious for our comedy podcast.
This seems like a time when we've hooked the listener. If you're a duck, or if you know any ducks, and if you know about where their penises are when they're not out and about, please leave an Apple podcast review for Bootu Boys.
Yeah, write all about duck dicks in your iTunes podcast.
It would really help us out. Say this is your favorite part of the podcast, and you hope we start a whole offshoot duck dick podcast called Duck Dick Dynasty, which is kind of a play off the show we covered that was very bad.
So much better than the show. Yeah, no, I'm hoping that if you do decide to make the review on this moment, you say, I did this for the duck dicks. Put that in your review.
And we'll all get tattoos of Paranta's head.
And duck dicks.
Paranta's head with a duck's dick.
Oh, man, what kind of dick does Paranta's head have?
It's a fish.
A fish?
A whole other fish. That's what he uses for everything.
We all have our own bodies on our as a dick.
A whole other guy down there.
Well, his is a catfish, though, so it has like the little whiskers that wiggle around. And it can survive out of water.
You have to feed it, too, though.
Oh, God.
That's the scary part about it.
But people sometimes, like, it'll get your thumb because people reach into logs or whatever.
And accidentally, second mouth. There aren't any fish in this movie, though. That's my transition.
They didn't serve that on the plane.
No. Slade's still giving speeches, and he goes up to the Fruza Balk-looking friend of Jen and gives this speech about being young and pretty. What if the bullets were real? Droning on and on about, like, what if I really killed someone after all his stunts? And I think even the audience is like,
Are you going to do a second song?
Yeah, can you please play music? I know that this is part of it, too, your kind of pseudo-Gallagher thing here, but, like, we really want you to play music. Slade looks into the camera and says that Fruza Balk girl does not deserve to die, and then turns and actually murders the captain and says, now the party gets real, which is pretty fun. You know, that he has a little stinger at the end.
I think the captain deserved it. I still think Slade's a good guy to this point, because fuck that captain.
Well, this is messed up, though. So this doesn't seem like the Slade who was carefully washing his hands and asking what he could do for
I
people.
think it was the guy who he said, what can I do for you? I think that guy took over Slade Craven's body.
Whoa.
It makes it sound like he got in there.
Like a spirit.
a Rockle-ganger.
This is a movie. Now it's a supernatural possession movie, too.
Oh, I forgot to mention the main thing this movie is, which is bad. But I do love it. I love it so. This is where the movie really is kicking into high gear.
You don't know what's happening.
We don't know what's happening. Slade's turned evil. The plane is hostage at this point. Well, let's go to the cabin. Maybe Rutger Hauer can help. Well, he gets up. He stands up. This is the only time, I think. No, it's one of two times. He stretches. He takes a big stretch, and he looks outside at the lightning, and he smiles a little bit.
I can just see his face right now.
A little Rutger Hauer grin.
Anyway, back to Nick the hacker and Kate the FBI agent who has captured him, but actually wound up entrapped in a plot to catch a murderer on an airplane concert. You know, maybe this movie is good. I don't know.
She is so far outside. She was already going rogue, like we talked about before, and now she's just investigating an entirely new thing. No permission from the force, is that what you call the FBI? Yeah, no one's told her that she can do any of this.
She's gone from investigating cybercrime to murder. I don't think the same people. I don't think Mindhunter was also about catching hackers, for instance. Kate, while sitting there with Nick, goes ahead and calls the FBI. She's got to report this. She knows it's all real now. Back on the plane, Slade's audience is actually scared. They know the murder's real and something is wrong. And I could see if you're there, you're like, it's his last concert. He's retiring early. Maybe he fucking lost it, you know, and he's like Jonestowning a plane full of his fans or something. I don't know. Kate's on the phone to her boss, Joe Mantegna, who we briefly mentioned earlier, who is a real actor and not the football player.
What is his name in this movie? Frank, right? Mm-hmm. Frank. I think
I have Joe Mantegna down. But yeah, no, his name is Frank Gordon, I think. But Kate tells him, look, I've busted Spectre, and he has tinted glasses and knows how to break into concerts. But there's also been some murders going on in this plane concert, boss.
To which Fat Tony then says, "What's a moida?"
It is Fat Tony. Yeah. Joe Mantegna looks confused when they flash to him at this whole murder thing, and Kate says, look, just fucking pay for the pay-per-view. Go on to Z-Web TV
$10.
so that their skull counter will increase by 1. And then she hangs up. That's seriously what she does. She tells him to buy the pay-per-view. Her boss, Joe Mantegna. And then back on the stage, Slade Craven's busy again with his little diatribe, which it almost seems like he's just killing time. He is, but we'll get to that. And Slade asks everyone a friendly question while he waves his gun around.
Shall we play a game? But I thought you liked games, especially the ones where people get killed. Isn't that why you're all here? Well, the name of the game is Who Dies Next.
That's right, it's time for everyone's favorite party game, Who Dies Next? In Who Dies Next, players will be given a famous figure's name and date of death. The players will then receive 2 more names, with the goal being the selection of the next famous person to kick the bucket, or who dies next. The player with the least emotional damage at the end of the game wins. This week's category in Who Dies Next, we've all played before. It's people from plane movies. And I didn't select anyone who died young or anything. I'm not trying to be upsetting here. These actors had full lives and were in plane movies, which makes their lives even fuller. Your beginning actor, Spencer, you can start, is Lee Marvin, who was in Delta Force, a movie with Chuck Norris that's got plenty of planes in it. He died in August of 1987 at the age of 63. Okay, so who died next after Lee Marvin, Spencer? Was it Lloyd Bridges, who appeared in Hot Shots? Or was it Duchess Tomasello, who appeared in Wesley Snipes' Passenger 57? Who died next?
Okay, just the names.
Lloyd Bridges and Duchess Tomasello.
I don't know who that one is.
Yeah, I don't know that one either. I know Lloyd Bridges.
Let's go with that guy that I don't know who he is. Let's say he died next.
That's correct, Spencer. Lloyd Bridges died in 1998 at the age of 85.
He was old.
Duchess Tomasello died in 2004, and no one knows how old she was.
Huh.
She wasn't as famous as Lloyd Bridges. That brings us to Van.
Mandelbaum.
That brings us to Van. After those two, who dies next? Was it Andreas Katsoulis from Executive Decision with Steven Seagal and Kurt Russell?
Is that the big Greek guy who was it Kojak or whatever?
Yes, who was also G'Kar on Babylon 5.
That's right, yep.
Or was it Leslie Nielsen, who was in a plane movie called, Airplane?
Leslie Nielsen died, I think, in the maybe like 2012. I don't know when the big Greek guy died. I'm going to go with Leslie Nielsen.
No, Spencer has a 1-0 lead because Leslie Nielsen died in 2010 at the age of 84. Andreas Katsoulis died in 2006 at the age of 60.
Or 1 out.
I had no idea Leslie Nielsen had been dead for so long.
It has been a while now. I actually thought it was like 5 years ago, not 13 years ago. But Spencer, who dies next? Is it Wes Craven, who directed Red Eye, which has a plane? Or is it John Polito, the famous mobster actor from like Miller's Crossing and stuff like that, who was also in The Rocketeer? Planes. Who dies next?
See, I don't know when the other guy died. I don't think Wes Craven. I mean, obviously we're in a pretty modern time now. So,
and they died 1 year apart.
Okay, I was just going to be 50-50, so we will say Wes Craven.
That's correct. Spencer has a 2-0 lead. Wes Craven died in 2015 at the age of 76. Also thought that was more recent.
I didn't even know he died, to be honest.
Yeah, I thought it was like, if you would have asked me 3 years ago.
These things all feel like they just
This is
happened.
old man syndrome.
Yeah, it was like, that was yesterday.
Oh, man, when I was younger and I played Who Dies Next, I fucking knew.
At that time, like, everyone you knew had not died yet.
No one had died next. John Polito died in 2016 at the age of 65. Probably of a mob-related thing.
Yeah.
Sure, from being in all those
Fat Tony
movies.
got him, Joe Mantegna.
Yeah.
Joe Mantegna kills people.
Yeah, of course.
Van, you need to cut into Spencer's 2-0 lead.
It's insurmountable.
Who dies next? Is it Charles Tyner from Planes, Trains, and Automobiles? Or is it John Fujioka from Pearl Harbor, a movie that most certainly has planes in it?
Definitely. I don't know who either of these people are. Let's go with John Fujioka.
Oh, you are not good at Who Dies Next. That's incorrect. Spencer still holds the lead.
He's a champ of Who Dies Next.
We only have one left, so I'm going to give it to you, Van. It's worth 2 points. If you get it, you can tie.
Okay.
Who dies next? Dean Stockwell from Air Force One, which we did mention on our last episode, or Liam Neeson from the movie Non-Stop, where he does stop some plane people from doing something bad. Who dies next?
Well, he's not dead. Liam Neeson, that is. So it's
that
going
is
to
a
be
clue.
Dean Stockwell.
You got
There's
it.
a name I recognize, and I don't know why.
If you saw his face, you knew who he was.
Is that the guy from Quantum Leap?
He might be in that.
What is Ziggy? Anyway.
I'll tell you what, you got it right, and you got the trick question. Liam Neeson's not dead yet.
No.
Neither is God.
Which Liam Neeson kind of voices because he's Aslan in the Narnia movies.
I also like that you put those two in there. Leslie, see, I'm already
Oh, you're going to ruin it like last time.
Yeah, okay, so I was trying to say Liam Neeson, and in my head I was thinking Leslie Nielsen, and I accidentally said, what was it?
Leslie Neum, I think is what you said.
So Spencer has uncovered how Liam Neeson got added to this list, which is I already had Leslie Nielsen, and then I was like, I bet you Liam Neeson was in a fucking plane movie. He's been in 100 movies. And then I remembered he was in one, and I had seen it. It's also a really fun movie.
Well, what about like if they did like another Taken, and that one was an airplane Taken? They could have done that. I don't see why not.
You can take at any altitude. So that was
what if
Who
they
Dies
just
Next.
took her from him like when she was right beside him on the plane? It'd be really easy for him to get her back.
He wouldn't have to do a call. He just yelled at them, I have a certain set of skills.
And what if they were just like, all right, here, you can take her back.
Damn it, I'm too tall and there's not enough leg room.
He would not like planes. Yeah, he's too long.
Anakin, get me out of my seat.
Too much of a lion.
Oh, in the movie, Turbulence 3 that we're covering, Slade is, again, he's doing this Who Dies Next thing, and no one actually wants to die now that they know they're real deaths. They're not fun, televised stunt deaths anymore. The bandana goatee guy from earlier that got fake electrocuted decides, while he's up there giving his little speech, I'm going to try to hit my opening. He lunges and tackles Slade, but Slade easily knocks him down and gives him a little kick on the butt to usher him away, and it is so
funny. It's like
funny.
a little scolding kick.
Yeah.
Not like a mean guy who's killing people on the plane and you tried to get him. He's just like, don't do that.
Bad boy.
You turd.
I also like how electric chair guy, when he lunged, and this is a stealth attack to save a whole plane, had to make himself known by roaring as he tackled him. Ah!
It's so great. Which it's you have to think he's sitting there like, what would be the most dramatic way for me to save the plane? No, dude, if you save the plane at all, that is very dramatic. You don't need to roar. You're just gonna get kicked in the butt for your trouble. And Slade now is paranoid. He's like, anyone could attack. He's swiveling around. He even points the gun at his bandmates. Now, at this point, this can't be Slade. Something's up. Nick thinks that. We cut to the FBI, and Kate even thinks that. Something seems weird about this. Slade, meanwhile, on stage, calls Erica forward and says, let me take you hostage. And Benny says, let's kill the feed. This is fucked up. Like, I don't even like Erica, but I don't want her to get executed on camera.
I was surprised Benny's character would immediately say that's enough. I would think he would go for the views at the cost of human lives.
Well, maybe that Frappuccino early,
made him get to his
turn him
senses.
around.
Alternate title for the movie. Benny and a Jet.
That's perfect.
Come on, it works.
Saturday's all right for hijacking whatever Elton John songs.
Craven Rock? Crocodile Rock? I don't know.
They both start with CR.
Crocodiles
I think that's
on a
fair.
plane.
I'd watch that.
Nothing will top Buffett Head.
No, we already established that's the winner.
That almost sounds like one of the 80s in the lexicon of murder movies. Like, the Leatherhead guy that I always think is Jason could have been his sidekick. Leatherhead and
Muffet Head.
I almost called it Muffet Head. I guess like Susie Tuffet sat on a Muffet head.
What is a Tuffet?
I don't know. Something.
Is it a
something
mushroom
spiky?
or something?
I think it's a mushroom. I think you're
If it's
onto
spiky,
something there.
it's probably something one of these plane goers is wearing.
I doubt it's spiky. If she sat on something spiky, she'd be dead.
A buffet head can also refer to the business mogul Warren receiving a blowjob. Just for everyone's knowledge.
Who we've also established also hacks in and gets free concerts because he won't pay the $10.
Yeah.
Warren Buffett's a huge Craven guy.
Oh, yeah. Ever since all the way back at his first album, Pew Card.
He sits there drinking his Coke and...
with his McDonald's and his tennis shoes that he's had for 10 years.
I am the razor. Back over at Nick's condo, Nick asks Kate, hey, can you uncuff me so I can restore the feed? We can see what's going on that way. We can maybe even help. Kate, again, begrudgingly complies. And at the same time, her boss, Joe Montana, is answering Benny's phone call. He's already in his limo with that Barrett guy, the other FBI agent. And he's answering Benny's call to go meet him at the headquarters of Z-Web TV and sort this all out. This is now pretty much a hostage situation. We get a full shot of this cell phone call for Joe Mantegna, and then a full shot of this kind of mid-range Ford sedan taking off. Like, this is total filler here. There's just like a lot of watching stuff happen.
Yeah, the impressive FBI vehicle of like a Corolla,
like
or
a
something
Ford
or other.
Contour. The FAA calls Joe Mantegna after Benny calls him, and they tell him, look, we can't get in touch with the plane or the hijacker to figure out what he even wants.
It's probably fine, nothing
I was
weird.
going to say, that's the guy who was trying to downplay it all along, so him being like, I don't think there's anything to worry about.
I really don't want to be wrong about this.
Mr. Start Then or something or other. Stop
now, yeah. And on the plane, Slade is talking to the crowd again, just droning on and on about how I'm so unpredictable, I could kill anyone at any time, even my best friend, and turns to his band. And this kind of felt like a Room moment, you know? Potential harm being inflicted upon a best friend.
I shoot you, Mark.
Come on, this is Craven we're talking about here.
The crowd's actually upset now. We pan over to them. They're all still seated, though, just like they were during the music. They're crying. They're still wearing bucket hats. I actually do think for some reason the image of these people like dressed to the nines and really upset was kind of funny here because it's like just out of place. Nick the Hacker has managed, since getting uncuffed, to improve the reception of the Z-Web TV broadcast because he is the best hacker and the smartest person. He explains his developing theory on this whole Craven situation to Kate. I saw Craven earlier, and I know this dude, and he came back after his break, back on stage. Didn't seem like the same guy to me.
Didn't look like a guy who just took a poop. He looked like a different guy.
And Kate looks annoyed and looks at him as if this is stupid, because it is, in theory. Shouldn't be right.
I wish every time Nick said something that Kate, throughout the movie, that she thought that was dumb, did what she did the first time and pointed the gun at him. Every time he started getting back into like, well, what about this idea?
It's like her pulling the leash, basically. Nick, stop it.
I had to get a gentle leader for Nick the Hacker because he kept pulling.
And this scene spirals into just pure majesty, as far as I'm concerned, because now is when we get some sweet hacker technology action between Nick, the world's best hacker, and Kate, presumably one of the world's best hackers. She works for the FBI.
I think they work together even better than Holmes and Yo-Yo.
Whoa, and that's saying something. They were able to run through plates of glass together. Nick has an idea. He types in, connect to the flight reservation database, and that happens.
Just like anything, you just type what you want to occur, and then it does.
Yeah, and he mentions to Kate, what if we pooled our resources? Because you can get into stuff. You work for the FBI. We could work together.
All right, there's the passenger manifest. Can you cross-check that with the Bureau's databank?
You need my help?
Yes, Miss FBI, I need your help.
My name is Kate Hayden, and I'm a Ms.
You sure are.
I think we get Nick's whole thing by hearing that clip.
I think if we take the horribly sexist bit out of that and just look at how he says that line, it is perfect.
He
You
rules.
sure are.
I'm telling you right now. And even the way he does his little eyes, his beady little eyes behind those glasses, Craig Sheffer knows what he's up to. Kind of makes me want to see him be the star of Turbulence 2. Something I somehow haven't done yet. On the plane, no one's hitting on anyone. Rutger Hauer's fiddling with some knobs. He's squinting kind of into the distance and appreciating that I've had a long, good career as a pilot. I assume that's what he's doing at this point.
Well, he's had over 1,200 hours these last few years. Before that, flying helicopters and
again, on vacation.
Sightseeing.
Yeah.
He's like a TC in Magnum PI. He's
Yeah.
a helicopter tour thing.
Actually, late career Rutger Hauer would have been great as like a side character on a TV show who you go and he says wild stuff like TC.
Mm-hmm.
Like a nice side character.
Woof, woof. She's like a dog.
Well, I'd rather him not say anything like that. TC was out of bounds, okay? And also, those aren't initials anyone has. The FBI guys, that's Joe Mantegna and that Barrett guy, they can't get in touch with Kate on their cell phones. I know you're thinking that that's kind of a cop-out, right? Well, no, not really. It's 2001. The cell phones just might not have worked.
And there's a bit later where they're like, oh, I can't get any damn signal. And it's believable, but also such a time capsule thing.
Because my alarm bells go off, they're like, oh, this bullshit, that's not and then I'll remember the time frame. And I'm like, well, no, nothing really worked. No, it did not look like the, nothing said link status on or whatever, but it didn't work that well. Finally, Joe Mantegna gets through on the phone as he's arriving at Z-Web TV, and Kate tells Joe an update. The hackers got a feed to the broadcast, and soon the FBI will as well, and they get a load of Benny's big ol' screens so they can see all of what's going on the plane once Joe Mantegna and Barrett enter the Z-Web TV building. On that screen, Slade is still unfurling his manifest or whatever. What is he doing?
I never knew.
He's going on and on to Benny. Benny's on the phone with him now. And he says, time is ticking, despite the fact that I don't have any demands. I've not even made them yet, but time is running out.
He's just standing up there like, you have to listen to my version of the vagina dialogues. It's like just a one-man show.
Monologues, but it's a lot funnier to me if it's the vagina dialogues. You got two people up there.
Yeah. A conversation about it.
Why don't they up it to 2 by now?
They should.
They've been doing the 1 for a long time.
And look, we all know that women sit around and discuss their gynecologists with one another.
Oh, yeah.
King of Queens taught us that.
I have proof.
What was that episode? If not the vagina dialogues. that
Why didn't they name it
Secret
that?
Garden episode,
Yeah, they should have. What was the name of that little guy's business?
Oh, Garden of
Whedon.
Yeah, that's a great name for a
Man.
business.
Is Secret Garden supposed to be like a play on words for vagina?
I think it could be, now that
maybe
you
so.
mentioned that. Sure.
Never mind, King of Queens is great.
Oh,
They know how to name stuff.
my plane is getting weary.
The wings are getting tight. Don't know if they're gonna fall off and we'll all die in a fiery crash tonight.
Doug being like a rundown pilot in that show would not be the same thing.
Oh, he's stuck in the cockpit again.
She came to work with him and they can't stop having sex.
Yeah, she would be the flight attendant and she would complain about something.
He
and
would
have to
eat
grease
all
him out of the cockpit.
he'd eat all the passengers' foods, their little meals that you got.
They were going to stop and eat all the passengers.
That's fine too.
And no, the plane hasn't crashed in this scenario. They haven't been trying to survive on a mountain. He just ate them in the air.
No, he was hungry, and they hadn't done the meal tray thing where they come around with crackers or whatever. When Joe Mantegna sees all of what Slade's doing, he understands, yeah, this is definitely like a real hostage situation. This guy is unbalanced, and he calls the FAA and says, you should evacuate your San Diego tower. I believe there really is an issue now. There's no way around it. Back at Nick's, Nick and Kate, they're doing some database cross-referencing with some really hideous software. And if you didn't like watching a Ford sedan pull out of a parking spot, you're going to love watching people cross-reference names in a database.
And like hunt and peck as they type.
Yeah, because for being great hackers, neither of them can type. It's almost like they're actors.
Not good ones, because they can't even act like they're typing.
At the FAA tower we saw earlier, we get that guy that says controversy wrong, and we see him. He answers the phone and talks to the Barrett FBI agent and says, all right, we're fine. There's definitely no problem. I've been right the whole time, but I'll evacuate the... Oh, no, too late. It explodes. Everyone dies. Turns out the evacuation notice from Joe Mantegna came a little bit too late. But this gives Joe Mantegna the realization there are ground accomplices for this to have happened. This is more than just Slade Craven going rogue, and it's 7:09 p.m. now. The screen tells us that. It beeps and boops across there.
Oh, so we did get another one of those. Okay.
There have been a couple, but much like a lot of things with this movie, it sets up the expectation like this will appear in a normal interval and then kind of forgets about it.
Or be relevant at all.
Well, we are not going to explode the Bootu Inc. studios. We don't have that kind of money, nor we want to. We like it here. Instead, we're going to take a break. Air traffic control tries to reach the plane, so logically they call the pilot. That's Rutger Hauer. He's in the cockpit right now by himself. Annoyed that anyone would even try to reach him, Rutger Hauer proceeds to take out a gun and smash the controls with the butt of it until they overheat and smoke. And he looks at it with this look of surprise and kind of happiness. It's his, again, that little smirk, that half smile, to a point where I wonder if he really destroyed a thing.
He broke a prop of some sort.
That's great, though, because that would mean at first he was alarmed and then pleased.
Yeah. He looked startled, beat the shit out of a bunch of knobs until they blew up, and then smiled.
I was probably thinking that'll add a lot of value to this scene.
But it does tell us at this point for sure, Rutger Hauer is in on this hijacking. What's he going to get out of it? Who knows? At Z-Web TV, Joe Mantegna is asking Benny what he knows about Slade Craven and what his demands are. Nothing. Nope. There are no demands. This is the dumbest hijacking ever.
But Benny does start talking. He's like, well, I mean, I know just about what everyone knows about him. I know he's super rich and private, and he's a superstar rock musician and just starts bumbling through shit like that.
It's the 2001 equivalent of I just grazed the Wikipedia before you asked that question.
I think it sounds like, he's a herbologist. He knows everybody. It's in that realm.
And so anyway, he's been doing some albums recently, and I'm a blues guy, but this Slade Craven, he must
Have you heard songs from the Crystal Cave? It's like a lot like that.
I'll give you a CD. I got one with me.
Let's just forget about this whole hostage thing and go listen to my songs from the Crystal Cave. How do you feel about Russia? Joe Mantegna does a really funny thing and out loud says, all right, let's get a background check on this Slade Craven.
That's possibly my favorite part of this whole movie.
Joe Mantegna steals a few of the scenes from now on, and he is more subtle about it than any of the other name actors in the movie, but he has a really fun time in some of these scenes with his kind of harried, I don't have time for this is fucking stupid kind of reaction to some certain things that go on.
Which is how the actor himself would have felt during the filming of this.
Yeah,
it's like, I've got other things to do.
It comes across very naturalistic in that sense.
Wasn't I just in the bridges of Madison County? Whatever that...
Was he in that?
This probably is as good as that.
yeah, sure. Wasn't that a book? I think it was a book.
They made it into a movie.
Yeah.
With Clint Eastwood. I'm just making stuff up now.
No, I believe that is correct.
Clint Eastwood and Joe Mantegna.
And John Mann, Slade Craven himself. As Slade Craven.
In the bridges of Madison
My
County.
penultimate concert will be on the bridge of Madison County.
I can only, when I think of that movie, think of the Brad Pitt one that we brought up, Legends of the Fall.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's the same time frame, I think.
Definitely.
I don't know, I might just be lying.
I bet you those both came out in 1996.
Yeah,
or
that's
something
probably why
Just
I
like
do that.
Con Air and Turbulence 1. Or... Joe Mantegna has ordered this background check, but already at Nick the Hacker's condo, he and Kate have hit a match with their cool database checking game. And it's a guy by the name of Simon Flanders, who we mentioned in the first episode. It's the bleached blonde guy who was really mad and talked about rubber gloves when he went through the metal detector. Nick sees the photo and says, I remember seeing that guy earlier on in the crowd.
I have a photographic memory.
And then he's like, let me in 2 seconds, just hit a couple buttons. Here's the crowd earlier. Look, there's Flanders. Here's the crowd now. He's not there. Simon Flanders must be the hijacker.
Or Simon Flanders is pooping. We
Could
don't know.
Could be any number of things.
Could be that Simon Flanders went to check on Slade Craven. Slade killed him.
Yeah.
And this just is Slade out here doing this. We're just going to have to wait and see. Kate asks Nick the Hacker, hey, you don't happen to have a voice analysis program? And Nick says, yeah, it's in the X file. And Kate says, of course it is.
I don't get it.
Voice analysis? Is that supernatural in some sort of way? I don't...
No, that's in every hacker's toolbox. They always have the voice analyzer.
Is that the joke? Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a joke. I think they're just like, computers.
And it's definitely a computer situation because we get to see the voice analysis program, which just all sort of pops up where Nick immediately, and I can't stress enough how fast this computer is working in 2001, where Nick immediately uploads Craven singing from his performance at the show and then compares it with Flanders talking in his normal voice. Now, it would have gone a little faster, but Nick hit the damn rewind button on his keyboard. All hackers have this happen whenever they're doing this sort of stuff, right?
It happens.
So, honest question that I just now thought of is, how do the TV people, the Turbulence 3 filmmakers, how do you make
Martin
a computer?
Scorsese.
How do you make a computer do that stupid bullshit fake stuff on there? Like, what program did they install?
Animating. They just animated it.
I mean, it looked believable. It looked like it was on the screen.
And it was a waveform in a sense. It was Barr's version of it, where they compared the two different voices. The problem is their voices aren't that different. Now,
yeah, that's the problem.
Well, John Mann is playing Slade Craven and this Simon Flanders guy. But when they have Simon Flanders speaking, they dubbed over his voice with a different voice that is not that dissimilar from his own voice.
Sounds a lot like Slade Craven.
So the little computer imagery of the two voices being way different is absolutely completely wrong.
They wouldn't be that different. And then I'm just delighted how all the programs look and are very quickly called up. And basically, this computer is a magic chest. Like anything anyone says can appear on the screen within a flash of a second. But where's Slade Craven then? If this is Simon Flanders speaking right now, because they actually do know that, because the voice analysis was done on this little diatribe that fake Slade is giving. They know that's Flanders, but they don't know where Craven is. He's probably dead. He's not dead. The thin little guitar hits and the little kind of like noise guitar starts, we pan across a very small silver room. And in the corner, sitting cross-legged, with his hands behind his back, with a little upset look on his face, is Slade Craven. And he's being forced to watch someone impersonate him taking a hostage on stage. He would never do that. Slade comes to. I believe he was knocked out, or that's what we're supposed to believe, or he would have stood up sometime before now.
Or moved at all.
But he decides to. I'll stand up and I'll go closer to the monitor and kind of make my face like pucker up a little bit more.
Yeah, he has to show his increasing displeasure with the situation.
Well, I don't like it when people murder in my name.
I guess the problem is because he has all the white face paint on, you can't see like subtle facial changes, so he just goes, does the whole thing.
He has to play to the back of the theater.
And nowhere in his face is any kind of fear for being in a situation where his life is in danger.
Not whatsoever.
He's like, I got to make this right. My fans deserve better.
He's a consummate professional.
And that's probably true. The show must go on. We got to do another song.
He'd be playing his violin as the Titanic sank.
At Nick's condo, we find out in Flanders' file, there's a little more than meets the eye. He's not just some Craven fan who took over a plane. He is a devil worshiper with a criminal record.
That's right, he's part of my group.
This group has a catchy name, Nick says. It's called Guardians of the Gateway. The thing about Guardians of the Gateway is they see themselves as the vanguard of the Antichrist that will rule the next millennium. We've all kind of felt that way about ourselves from time to time. I think it's kind of normal, but these people still think that way, and they think it in numbers. Nick thinks all this sounds a lot like his neighbor Daphne. On the plane, one of the flight attendants urges fake Slade Craven that the turbulence means passengers need to get in their seats. He then says, I'll make you go to La La Land with the captain. Again, he's so flowery. This doesn't seem like a violent guy, even though he clearly is. Nick the Hacker and Kate, they, being armed with this new information about Simon Flanders and his cult, they check out this really cool GeoCities page called Guardians of the Gateway.
It's phenomenal.
It's what they set up. Nick looks actively scared looking at the website and lets out a sigh like, oh boy, before clicking into the main menu, which is just 4 blurbs of text with some kind of scary howling noises in the background, which is a nice touch.
Well, it's 2001. Think of the websites you've seen by 2001. You haven't seen that many. Now we've seen a lot of websites. Yeah. That kind shows up in your face, though. Terrifying.
Oh my God, flash animation.
Like, ooh.
And there's kind of some flames going on in the background of this website. I cannot stress enough. Everyone go look at all the computer stuff in this movie. Just look at it. Kate and Nick alternate. This is a natural way to do this, not at all a movie contrivance. They alternate reading parts of the blurbs on the website screen, but it's not enough to read them off the screen. Nick then prints the front page of the website out.
Well, people do. Yeah.
We can't see 7 inches in front of us. We need to see 1 inch in front of our faces.
Listeners, go print out the first page of BootuInc.com. You'll love it.
Yeah, you'll be able to thwart some sort of hostage situation.
In Kansas, or at least close to it.
Did you guys ever print out a website before? When you were young?
Well, yeah.
Well, okay, I don't mean that. I don't mean that.
I had a big stack of those. But
I might have mentioned it. I printed one of those out and stuffed it in a boxing glove so they wouldn't find it.
No, I take that back. I actually did recently. I printed out the tenets of the Satanist church that we joined.
Yeah, okay, that counts.
I mean, everybody's printed information that they've selected off a website, but never just like
the image.
Page.
Control P, fuck it. Give me the graphics, give me the illustrations, the photos.
Dance is so funny. I better print it.
You go to CNN and print the main news page out.
It's like having my own newspaper. Oh, how do I click the link in paper form?
They're just jabbing holes in the paper.
How do I get to the sports section?
Want to do my crossword
Where's
puzzle?
the funnies?
Ziggy, what are you up to? Is Ziggy still a comic that's around?
He's so wholesome.
I don't know that.
No, I don't know.
I don't know
what
shit about
I
Ziggy.
haven't kept up with my comics.
Yeah, you know what? Fuck it. For all I know, Ziggy was at January 6th. I don't know what he's been doing for 30 years.
Son of a bitch doesn't even wear pants. He just has that one oversized shirt and a big nose.
Well, at least the shirt's big enough. It's not like Porky Pig, who we've talked about famously.
Well, he has a vest.
He rolls with his pork in the wind.
Yeah, which he's used to have children.
9 of them?
The vest?
Is it 9 or a bunch?
I think it's at least one. I can't go more than that.
One of these days, he's going to find a nice sow and settle down.
I thought it was a lot more.
What would you name Porky Pig's kids?
I think he would have a junior, a Porky Jr.
Porky Pig Jr.?
Yeah.
Okay.
What if he went with naming wounds? Gorky the pig, Borky the pig.
Oh, I was thinking that. And you could even be like a silly one, be like Dorky. You know, he's clumsy.
Yeah, because Gorky and Borky were not silly.
Hampton is the real one. That's the real kid's name.
What about Babe? That's a pig name.
With James Cromwell. We're all tying it together. We haven't talked about him in a while.
James Cromwell gets brought up a lot.
I like that.
I do too. Once Nick has printed off the Guardians of the Gateway front page, we get to hear all about the Stoll Prophecy and Dark Angels for the first time. We'll hear more about it. Meanwhile, on the plane, Slade's up and at him now, and so is the soundtrack. It's urging him forward, just as we are in the audience. Slade tries to box cutter himself free, because there's one in this little room he's in, which seems like an oversight on Flanders' part to leave a box cutter in there. And then I was like, wait a second, box cutter, plane is, oh yeah, before 9/11.
Yeah. I don't think Slade Craven would be allowed on a plane after 9/11 because he couldn't have the iron dick.
No.
He couldn't have all the metal stuff.
Well, isn't that what they called Margaret Thatcher that?
The iron dick. That's correct.
The Queen's iron dick or something?
What was it? The Iron
Well,
Lady?
yeah,
Lady.
just the iron lady.
I thought it was maybe the precursor,
No,
the Iron Throne.
Churchill was the iron dick.
I'm just drunk.
At the Z-Web TV headquarters, nobody can get in touch with the cockpit for some reason. Well, one of the pilots is dead. The other one's Rutger Hauer, who just beat the shit out of the cockpit. Joe Mantegna is finally ready. He wants to be online with the hostage taker Slade Craven. When the call starts, because he still thinks it's Slade, by the way, Joe Mantegna, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
When the call starts, fake Slade starts cracking jokes about having fans in the bureau and goes on and on about how nobody knows what he wants. It's not a boastful point at this point, fake Slade. No one knows what you want because you won't say it. When fake Slade says, nobody knows what I want, Joe Mantegna's like, yeah, no, but you haven't said anything, that's why. He's clearly impatient as a person would be. Fake Slade then forces Joe Mantegna to call Erica beautiful. I don't know if she was like, that was part of her writer on this whole thing or something. Joe Mantegna's face remains just baffled as he tries to do this hostage negotiation. Nick and Kate are actually making some headway. They have found out that the Stoll Prophecy centers on Stoll, Kansas.
Of course it does.
It's a gateway to hell, and even the Pope is afraid of this place.
He wouldn't fly over it.
Why would anyone not be afraid of eastern Kansas, or any of Kansas for that matter?
Well, I would like to reveal that Stoll, Kansas is a real place. 4 hours from us.
We gotta
need
go.
to take a trip there someday.
I'm serious, I'll go there.
Yeah.
I'd like to tell someone there about this.
See how evil it is.
Do you think anyone there knows that they're
they all
famous?
know. They all
This
know.
might be their claim to fame.
Yeah, wait, what if it's on like the sign when you drive into town? It's like,
Yeah.
Stoll, Kansas. We were in Turbulence 3.
They got Slade's face on it with sunglasses on.
But Nick the Hacker's sunglasses, little blue tinted ones.
Yeah. Well, they'd be hanging out together, probably, in reality. Because they're about to be BFFs. I can't wait to get to that part. Nick and Kate, kind of by piecing things together, because there's something in here about a cataclysm of fire, eastern Kansas. Well, they think fake Slade wants to crash the plane into the hell portal.
Sure.
I mean, I don't see that that's going to do any good. Like, they're not going to get anything out of that except for to be dead. But this kind of tells everyone involved with the rescue mission, the hostage takers here, you can't even negotiate with them. They don't want anything. They want to die. That's why they're killing time.
I don't know who says it, but it may have been Nick the Hacker and Kate say they're going to crash into the hell portal and release the evil demon within or something.
I kind of wish we'd gotten to see what that was.
It's Slade Craven,
you know,
but like glowy.
Big and glowy. And a tornito. He has a cyclone body.
Does he have a cowboy hat and a
Yeah,
lasso?
and he has hooves for hands.
Cool. This has gotten weird.
Joe Mantegna is talking to a hoofless fake Slade Craven he's talking about hypocrisy a lot. He's like, oh, you're all so fake. Benny and Rachel, the coworker, realize, oh, this is kind of good for business. Whoop! The skull counter those skulls are piling up on it. Millions and millions are tuning in to see fake Slade wave his gun around.
Which is accurate. Think of it, that's a real scenario. As the news started to get out, people would be tuning into that like crazy.
And that is kind of the movie, or like the point of the shock rocker, right? Is that you there's a little bit of that shoving your face in the pee. Like, you know what, people do that with dogs, which is fucked up, I think, but of like,
well, it doesn't
you
work.
like
Dogs
this,
don't
don't
think that
you?
way.
You're watching this because you like this.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, well, you presented it as entertainment, man. You can't chastise me about it now while you're doing it.
I just paid my $10, that's all, to see Rutger Hauer.
Joe Mantegna is kind of at his wit's end, but now he gets a phone call. It's Slade Craven. It's the real one, though, and he's free. And just so we know, Slade's got a sense of humor, even when facing an insurmountable situation. He says, Houston, we got a problem. Joe Mantegna says, hold on, put me back on with the fake Slade Craven, I don't know. Meanwhile, Nick and Kate, they're hearing all this, and they're connecting the dots faster than anyone, because they've had Nick's condo's eye view for a long time in this.
Birds don't go on planes, Brian. They can already fly.
Slade Flanders is going on and on. He says, you all hide the truth. I don't know. Just the same stuff. Joe Mantegna gets bored, and it interrupts a terrorist mid-sentence, says, hold on.
I got another call. Give me a second.
He seriously does that. It's such a power move.
Well, we don't see what Slade does in response to this, or fake Slade, but I can imagine it's just something like, okay. Because he wants the audience, so why not?
He doesn't have a choice. When Joe Mantegna gets back in touch with real Slade, well, all the information gets verified. Slade can tell exactly the amount of money he paid in taxes last year. $4 million plus, so he made a shitload. And that's in 2001 money.
Mm-hmm.
And this proves who he is. Nothing else. Just the amount of money paid into the federal government last year.
Which I'm pretty sure is public knowledge, so therefore
you
Simon
could find
Flanders
that anywhere.
Could have figured it out.
Yeah, for sure. But it's enough for Joe Mantegna, who up to this point has been very skeptical. Now he's totally on board here. Joe Mantegna, just like with Kate earlier, he's like, can you please fucking keep it in your pants and not do anything rash here? Just like Kate Hayden earlier, Slade says, what? The call's breaking up. And yeah, he fakes a bad connection to hang up because that's not his style. He's going to save everybody. And Nick in the condo is aware all this is happening, and he leans back in his chair and says that. He goes, I like his style. Knowing now which Craven is real and which isn't, Joe Mantegna is back on the phone with the fake Slade, who gives his demands.
There. All right, Slade. You talked about truth. Let's do that. Let's cut to the chase. You tell me right now, what is it that you want?
I want you to die.
Okay. We'll write that down. What else?
I think that's great. That whole thing.
No shit's given. Great.
Yeah, that dramatic I want you to die is obviously hilarious. And then Joe Mantegna is like, you can't.
Okay, next. Come on.
Now, what if the movie, if Joe Mantegna, all right.
Bang.
Yeah, just immediately executes himself. And then fake Slade just is like, okay, hostage situation over.
He hands the gun
It was all because he hated Joe Mantegna.
No more plane crash. I hate Fat Tony. Bad character, never made me laugh. Fake Slade looks at the skull counter right now and says, I need more time. Meanwhile, Nick hacks a map of seats on the plane and where the body heat is. He's got a program to do that.
I don't think that information's available to hack into.
The cameras have to be specifically made for that. So that means that they installed an infrared camera in the plane.
Yeah. These are in all passenger
That's
planes,
important
commercial planes.
That's the order you serve the food in when you're the attendant. You've got to go by body heat.
Okay.
That wouldn't be expensive to install whatsoever. But this is another example of how if Nick needs a thing, it appears. It's so great. Nick's like Jesus. Like, give him a fish, he'll give you two.
Jesus the hacker.
He could have. I mean, he'd been awesome at it.
Jesus of Hackereth.
Instead of carpentering, he could have hacked.
How is being God's son not the ultimate hack? Ultimate nepotism. Although I guess not, right? You know, in the
because he killed him for it.
Yeah.
Right? It was like, I made you to absolve everyone.
Yeah, it's getting a little weird now.
Like, I'm tired about the heat coming back on me just because I made all of you. I'm going to make one more and have him die. Rub it in all your faces for the rest of time. He'll come back. You'll see. God, can you handle it? Do I need to make another son? After saying he needs more time, the fake Slade now says, wait, nope, I don't need any time. The skull counters hit 10 million. And if you guys remember, 10 million is the amount of witnesses or whatever that are needed for the Stoll prophecy.
Yeah, bullshit, whatever.
Yeah. Real Slade is still looking at his monitor, contorting his little lips, when a black screen pops up and says, why don't you switch the channel, Slade Craven? I love you. I'm your #1 fan. I'm the best hacker. No one could be smarter than me.
Who is it?
It's Nick the hacker.
Oh.
Yeah, he sent this message. Slade follows the instruction and changes the dial, and now he's talking to his #1 fan, Nick the hacker. Nick tries not to just come all in his pants, and he says, look, I'm a hacker, the best one. I know about mainframes. Kate's here. She's on the FBI. again, Nick is just fawning all over Slade Craven while people are dying. He says, "You are the chick or the dude or the whatever, man."
Which is somewhat progressive. I'll give it that.
Yeah, and this isn't something, again, that Slade minds. There's no machismo in his act, which I guess is good, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think he says, it's good to see that there are some of my fans still left out there. Which, whatever, you fucking drama queen.
But whatever, well, he is. He's super dramatic.
Okay, fair
Both
point.
of the Slades are the most dramatic people.
Yeah, the other guy, though, is just never gets to the point. Just goes on and on.
The real Slade rules. I bet he was awesome to be in high school theater with, and I bet he was awesome to be in choir with. In this scenario, I don't believe Slade ever has like a rock music background. I believe he saw himself as like a performer first and found a band.
I always wanted the impersonator to do a couple songs too, and see if like that was part of his motivation.
He had a different style.
Yeah, he's like, I can do better, and then also I need to kill some people.
But what if it was really bad because he wasn't a singer? So it was just like Slade Craven up there performing his hit songs that sounded terrible.
And then they said they booed him, so he's like, well, I'm gonna fucking kill people. At first, it was just I'm gonna play some songs as Slade Craven and only murder the bodyguard to do it. And then when the crowd turned on him, he's like, now I'm killing everyone.
The mean people made him a villain. I see.
So while Nick's having fun talking to his favorite artist, Joe Montana can't get fake Slade off the phone or to stop just rambling. And finally, Joe Montana says, you know what I want? Can we land the plane? Can people just go home? Which isn't a good negotiation technique, but it's no less reasonable than die, which is Slade Craven's demand.
And I also feel like you should probably lead off with that. Just be like, hey, let's forget all this. Let's go. He waits a while. He lets Slade Craven 2 ramble for a bit before then going, let's just not do that, huh?
No, what if we don't do that? With the counter at 10 million and everything, fake Slade seems a lot more relaxed. He chucks Erica aside, no longer needing a hostage, I guess, which gives Ethan an opening, and Ethan whacks him with the camera, which should hurt really bad, I think. That's a big camera.
Yeah, that thing weighs 50 pounds.
Slade's own guitarist then grabs the fake Slade from behind, which knocks off fake Slade's wig.
Oh, my God.
Everyone can see this as Simon Flanders, a simple fan who was worried about rubber gloves. Flanders' gun comes loose during all this kerfuffle, and Erica manages to grab it. Whew. Finally, the gun's out of the hands of the bad guys. Nope. Erica shoots Slade Craven's guitar player and kills him. She's a baddie, too.
What a twist.
No one could have seen this coming.
Like Shyamalan wrote this.
We cut back to the real Slade, who, having seen his friend and guitar player die on his monitor, softly reaches a finger out to the monitor and says, Damon, in his very saddest, face-painted voice. Slade tells Nick, I can't just sit out here, because now he's really motivated. On stage, Erica's taken charge. She's the one barking orders now. Maybe she has been the whole time behind the scenes. Find every great terrorist is a great woman.
As they say.
Once again, Erica's saying no one is to cut this feed or everyone dies. She needs all the eyes on them. I think they must really believe 10 million people have to be watching for the portal to open right. Like the lid won't come up if they don't have 10 million people watching.
And it also stops at 10 million. It doesn't go higher than that.
Yeah.
The counter
has to be
10
exactly
million.
10 million, not one less
not
or one more.
Yeah, no one else can, I guess, pay if they want to watch at that point. But the skulls keep dropping. I don't understand that. There should be a neutral noise. You know, you have the whoop, whoop. There should be a whoop.
It's just a flat tone.
Yeah. Erica tells everyone, hey, get to the back of the plane. They wind up going to their seats, which is kind of weird. I don't think that's the back of the plane because she doesn't want to deal with any more hero attempts because there have been like 3.
It's a really brave flight.
Craven fans aren't Craven. They're Braven.
The irony. Is that I guess that would be the opposite, wouldn't it? Braven versus Craven.
Sure.
Huh.
Or brazen.
You know, after this whole thing, Slade should change his name to Slade. Slade Brazen's pretty good, too. Especially for someone so theatrical.
I wish that had just been what it was.
What do you think his real name was? Like, Slade Craven's clearly not his birth name.
Yeah, that's what they looked him up as.
No.
I wish
I bet he changed.
They should have given him some sort of like
Jeffrey Finkelstein or something.
Thomas Jefferson.
Maybe
I like that a lot.
So maybe his real name is Slade, but he decided to change the last one.
What if his name was like
Craven?
Slade Gunflower or like something he could have just used?
He wanted Craven.
No, I was born with kind of more of a folk music surname. It was Lightning Knife. I changed it to Craven. Don't worry. Now I can be a rock star. I should mention Erica will not let Ethan leave still. Like, everyone else gets to go sit down. She's like, Ethan, keep the camera on Erica.
He says, Ethan, you kind of look like the principal from Ferris Bueller's Day Off, who that actor later on was busted for child pornography and is no longer in anything anymore. But yeah, that guy.
Real Slade slumps against a wall and makes his grandma face as he plans to escape. Still. He's still just sitting in there. Nothing's really happened. Erica tells the FBI that her group now has the 10 million eyeballs, or pairs of eyeballs. Some of those people probably do have one eye.
20 million
or
eyeballs.
Or 3.
Yeah, well, we could say 19,999,999 eyeballs.
Yeah.
Give us a little leeway.
And Erica reveals, that's what I wanted all along. Just people watching this. Nick says, hoo boy, helter skelter, live on the net. Because he sees this for what it is now. This is a cult. This is their plan. They want to die. There's more. Erica wants Craven brought to her because there's still one more bit of business to be done, and that's executing the false prophet. That's Slade Craven. Nick radios Slade and gives him a heads up. Look, you're going to get in a fight with yourself really soon. And Slade says, now we get to play, with a confident little lip pursing. Really liked it. He shouldn't be confident, though. Slade Craven is very bad at fighting. I'm certain that he was very good on Our Town or whatever in college, but I don't think he's a good, he's not an MMA guy.
Well, when you're 150 pounds, you don't really have the weight to throw around behind you.
Rutger Hauer, he checks his watch. He does that a lot in this movie. Kate, she's talking to Joe Mantegna about her and Nick's new awesome plan. Nick will guide Slade Craven through the plane to get somewhere safe and maybe help out. After all, Craven and the hacker have developed a bond. You're going to hear that a lot in the back half of this movie, how close Nick the hacker and Slade Craven have become. Rutger Hauer slowly ambles across the plane to get all the way back to the stage and tell Erica it's time to change course and die in Kansas. He then kisses her on the cheek and leans into her body, kind of collapses into her and leaves. And just like Rutger Hauer leaves Erica, we're leaving you. Just for a little bit, though. We'll be back. We're back, and so was the action, because fake Slade comes into real Slade's little hostage room with a smirk on, and at this point I was like, wait, is this real? Oh no, there's no wig. But it's the same smirk, because it's the same actor. Fake Slade starts talking some shit, and starts to justify actual murder with Slade's own lyrics, and Slade's like, yeah, I know my own words, get over it, which, again, so sassy. Fake Slade looks over and sees Erica on the monitor, and right when he does that, real Slade nails him in the head with a lead pipe.
Just conks the shit out of him.
He Colonel Mustards the fuck out of this guy, brains him.
And as we figured out, that was his iron.
Yes, that he was able to detach. Fake Slade's gun, once again, for the first or second or third time, I don't know, as many turbulences as there are, as many times as this gun has skittered away under something. Now it's under a metal storage crate. Real Slade tries very briefly to reach and goes, and can't. So he stands up and kicks the fallen Fake Slade in the butt and calls him a bastard.
See, they're one of a kind.
Yeah.
Fake Slade kicked one guy in the butt. Real Slade kicks Fake Slade in the butt.
And because they're both John Mann, the kicks are done by someone who's never kicked someone. So it's just so fun.
I would like to posit the idea that because we're starting to, on screen, be like, yeah, these are the same guys. What if they, why do I always bring up identity? What if they'd gone the route where they were both actually Slade Craven and it's just him?
Oh, he's battling mentally.
He's doing both. Yeah, he's actually in both bodies.
And they're both in an inmate's head as they're transporting him. That's what happens in Identity.
Movie? What was that?
Oh, yeah,
one?
That was all fake, too. That one woman was fake.
What I'd like to point out is that he reaches for the gun, as you mentioned. We get a real good look at his hands, and we've seen his hands throughout the movie.
Yeah.
He's adjusted rings. He has stumpy, 60-year guitarist hands, and they're little short fingers. And I think that's why he wasn't able to reach the gun. His hands were too fat.
Too fat, which is weird because Slade Craven doesn't seem to play any instrument.
That's true. He's just a singer.
It could
and performer.
be that those hands are gnarled up from all those rings.
Yeah.
He has a lot of rings on.
Because why would he have stumpy hands? He's not built that way at all.
No.
Can either of you do rings?
I'm not a ring guy.
I don't like rings at all. I don't like shit on my fingers.
The furthest I got were those rubber band things I had on my wrist for a long time.
Oh my God, you had those for 10 years?
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
remember
that was impressive.
Yeah, they made
if you
it a
have
long time.
a bunch of rings, you can kiss them. That's all I know about it. You like a mobster style,
Like a John Polito type thing.
like a Fat Tony.
After escaping, Slade takes the little walkie-talkie thing, and he calls Nick and he says, I hope you're taping this, because he's feeling pretty good now, having taken out fake Slade, and he climbs up out of his little hostage hole. Rutger Hauer's having a really good time in the cockpit now. He takes out his sweet CDR of classical music. It's in his pilot pocket. He just pulls it right out, and he plays it. He kind of leans back and relaxes before everyone burns to death.
I don't know. If he likes Slade Craven music, shouldn't he be putting that on in the cockpit as he's going in about his final moments in the world here?
He did get to hear that earlier.
So he had enough.
Though. Yeah, he kind of wants to mix it up.
Okay.
Here's
he wants
some
to go
different
from
things.
the death metal to the classical music.
Yeah, exactly.
And as we're finding out, he's clearly in on this. He's part of this cult or whatever.
He's evil.
Which means that he, the cultist, and Slade Craven, the false prophet, they're not so different from one another, because when Slade Craven was getting psyched up before his first performance, before he got caught in the bathroom, he was listening to like Vivaldi or whatever. And now Rutger Hauer's listening to Beethoven or whatever. So they're similar.
That's true. That's a connection. Another connection I noticed here is that classical music CDRs are to Rutger Hauer as to blank Maxell cassette tapes are to Tommy Wiseau. You just pull them right out of your jacket pocket anytime you want.
Rutger Hauer, he's picking the destination, right? He was the one who went and told Erica where they're going. Is he like the grand cultist guy?
Maybe he
above
is.
Simon Flanders?
He fucking should be. He's got 50 years on anyone else involved in this operation.
Got 12,000 miles over the Pacific or whatever it was.
I don't think he is because of how he goes out here in a bit. Because I think if you're the leader, you want to be hit the ground. You want to fall into that hole and release the evil spirit.
So why is he calling the shots to Erica? Like, it's time to fly the plane. I guess because
I think he's just letting her
know
know this is what we're doing. Because everyone, you know what? There is no real true leader in the Guardians of the Gateway.
Nah.
It's a team job.
The leader will be whoever comes out of that hole.
Yeah, it's an employee. Satan's the leader, obviously. He's the number one head honcho. Normad told us that. But that's the thing. They all work together. It's kind of employee-owned business. Okay. Guardians of the Gateway.
It's a real price cutter of a business here.
Mm-hmm. But more throat cutter.
Which sounds like a Slade Craven song.
Yeah.
It does.
Erica, she still, she's evil. She's looking over at Ethan and she goes, "You're so lucky to die in Kansas like we are. This rules. Isn't this awesome?" The plane starts to actually descend rapidly. Rutger Hauer loves it. He leans back yet again and smiles in admiration at his handiwork, which is, again, it's all of his scenes. He does that little smile, and I'm not complaining.
It's just like a little smirk at the corner of his mouth. And
it's the right amount.
He's just loving it. Loving life for a bit.
All the passengers are in their seats now, and oxygen masks start coming down. There's a lot of beeping and booping. All of the stuff going on screen now is supposed to make us feel like shit's going down. Things are really frantic now.
The problem is no one knows how to use that stuff because they didn't listen to the flight attendant.
No, because Bucket Hat Guy kept saying Craven, Craven. Maybe he shouldn't have, because Craven took over the plane and tried to kill people. Well, not Craven, Flanders, but still.
Buckethead should be saying flight safety, flight safety, flight safety.
After this, I bet you he will. Nick the Hacker gives the real Slade one more alert. This time, it's that Erica has a gun and she's coming after him. So another heads up. Good thing Nick's doing this. When Erica reaches Slade, Slade's easily able to swat the gun away, but then she just kicks the fuck out of him for like a minute straight. Like, he doesn't get one hit in.
And I would say she looks like someone who has kicked a person before.
Yes.
Right.
No, Erica's kicking and stuff is the most convincing of anyone in this movie.
It's no Nia Peoples.
No, certainly not.
But it's convincing.
And I'll be damned if you tell me it's a Cynthia Rothrock situation.
Definitely not.
Just when you think Slade's about to finally meet his end at the hands of Erica, Erica's got her gun in the air. She raises it. Slade is able to apply a sweet drop toe hold that sends Erica flying into that prop electric chair that has a bunch of chains on it, I guess. Slade is then able to push an exposed spark wire.
Mm-hmm, sure.
One of the ones the plane has on it. Like
all in the space of 2 seconds or so.
And he goes, "Nyah!" and sort of pushes it at the chain. And then the chain, which is connected to the chair, which is connected to the Erica bone, she electrocutes. She dies.
Mm-hmm.
It's a pretty good death. I like it.
It's amazing. It's really Final
Nick
Destination.
Nick the Hacker likes it too. From his computer at his house, watching someone die right in front of him.
Yeah, he goes, "Yeah!" and fist bumps. It's fucking great.
I love Faces of Death.
Ethan's comforting Jin in the storm. We see, they've still got that going on. Nick's excited, as Spencer just said. Slade, meanwhile, he's murdered someone now, presumably for the first real time. He wrinkles up his face and shoves Erica's dead head out of spite.
It's awesome. So bizarre.
This, from the first time all of us saw it, is a favorite moment. Just the contempt he looks at her with, which he would.
Because she just killed one of his best friends, the guitarist or whatever.
Speaking of which.
Or bass player. I don't know.
Slade leans down to poor fallen Damon. He grabs Erica's gun, stows it away for later, and he closes Damon's eyes and says goodbye before he switches to action mode.
To better days. Let's do the hustle.
Yep, there's the let's do the hustle and that little guitar sting that let you know Slade is not fucking around now. He's ready to get his ass kicked more.
I realized that Damon wasn't the bass player because no one would be upset over losing a bass player. You can just get a new one.
Yeah, someone else will do the job. In the cockpit, Slade calls Nick again because they're best buds and because Slade doesn't know how to get across this plane. And as he's stumbling up a spiral staircase, which again reminded me of The Room a little bit.
Second in a row.
He manages to enter the cockpit and Slade encounters a positively serene Rutger Hauer who just is like, I can't imagine being this relaxed. Rutger asks Slade, he says, "What can I do for you?" A parallel from earlier. This movie's good. Rutger Hauer says, "We're going to be on the ground in 10 minutes. None of this matters. Do you know how to fly, by the way?" And Slade's like, "No." Super innocently. Slade lowers his gun. He knows now there's nothing I can do. I can't shoot the pilot. And Rutger Hauer says, "I love classical music and storms. You combine those things, it's fucking perfect. It rules." And Slade's like, "This is bad. And from my point of view, people are dying. There are hostages. There's a fake me. I don't want to really talk about classical music anymore." Rutger Hauer's like, "Where we're going, we're all going down." And then he kills himself by shooting himself under the chin. And something that the first time I saw it, I did not at all see coming.
Yeah, didn't you guys have like a weird thought?
The very first time I saw this with my friend Chad, we didn't so much as know Slade Craven was a musician. So imagine seeing this face-painted ghoul man running around. "I figured it out. I've done it." It was incredible.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. So I think we were confused as to Rutger Hauer's involvement or lack thereof. He kills himself, which, for his means, they all want to die and get shot out into a hell portal anyway. And he's the only one on board who knows how to fly the plane. This technically ensures that his mission goes off without a hitch.
Or does it?
That's a good point, Van. This movie might not end with everyone dying.
I wish it would have. What a movie it would have been.
Man, that would have been ballsy. One thing Rutger Hauer did not count on, though, is that Slade is now best friends with Nick the Hacker, who is the smartest guy and who, you're not going to believe this, he knows how to do flight simulators. He's the best. He did them all the time as a kid. "Hey, Kate, hand me my joystick." That's what Nick says. He says, "Give me that thing. Me and Craven, we're going to land this fucking plane." Joe Mantegna thinks this is stupid. The thing is, by now, Kate's won over. She loves Nick. She loves Craven. She hangs up on Joe Mantegna for a second time because she knows she's doing the right thing. Job be damned.
Yeah, I was going to say, plus she did kind of get rid of the whole "I'm going to keep my job after this" idea a long time ago.
Yeah, that's all out the window. I will say it is rare we see a woman doing this. This is usually the Mel Gibson and Lethal Weapon role.
If they wanted to make this a really poignant take on gender roles and society and everything.
Like it is, yeah.
Like it is. They should have shown us that she still got fired at the end of it.
Yeah.
Because like Mel Gibson would have done what they do with her character, which is be like, "Great job, you're promoted," or whatever. But since it's a woman, they should have just fired her.
Exactly. Joe Mantegna walks in and is like, "Oh man, thanks for helping us out with this. You caught Nick the Hacker. You helped land that plane. You caught the terrorists. You're fired. I'm taking credit for this."
She could then just go ahead and start the next phase of her career, which is working with Nick the Hacker, though. So she's got it.
Which, again, I would like to watch that movie. No, I guess after getting fired, she became a burn notice. Alongside
Bruce Campbell.
BTB alumni. He plays Autolycus in Burn Notice, I believe, in a Hawaiian shirt.
He also gawks Cleopatra in that as well.
All I know about him in that show is that he wears a Hawaiian shirt. That's all I know. And he always looks like Bruce Campbell, which makes me smile when I see his charming face.
Katie has watched a lot of Burn Notice, by the way, and she says it's a horrible show, and the main actor is awful at his job. but it's fun to watch. Because
Reno Raines is good at his job, though. That's why Renegade's is so awesome.
Yep. He was a great actor.
That's actually the most important thing in gauging a TV show's effectiveness is the character good at his job.
And you should say it up front so the audience knows what they're getting into.
If it's bad, you probably don't want to watch the show.
One little bullet point on that is that you can get away. They may not have to be good at their job, but they do have to be the bravest of their race.
If you are, you're going to be good at your job too, which is beating ass.
But I'm saying that doesn't. You
unless
can't
your
say
job's
that's
to
the
be
universal.
a coward.
No, that's true.
Yeah,
most of us aren't the bravest of our race by definition.
Can only be one, and it's Georg. So we already know who that is.
Joe Mantegna, meanwhile, he doesn't really think probably that Nick the Hacker and Slade Craven are not going to kill everyone. So he gets in touch with a pilot who's going to actually get in on the call once he arrives at Kansas City International Airport, and also help Slade land the plane.
And giving us a little bit of color in this very white person-centric movie.
And even more white than a movie full of only white people because of all the face paint.
Yeah.
It's the whitest movie I've ever seen.
And Simon Flanders is white, bleach hair.
Yeah.
Ooh.
And also, though, if we're being realistic, who's going to a Marilyn Manson type concert? It's fucking white people.
That's a good point.
You're not going to see anyone cool at one of those, probably.
That has to be like I don't know, what's worse, that or
Billy
country
Joel.
music or Billy Joel?
Yeah.
Like those are going to be some of the whitest places in the world. But it's all rock and roll to me.
Nick, he's telling Slade what to do. He tells him all about throttles and stuff, and the soundtrack, again, ramps up and gets more urgent. The passengers are still scared, and so are my eyes, because I keep having to look at this fake fucking storm. Every 5 seconds, it tries to show us lightning that is not lightning. Slade manages to level the plane out, which is his first initiative, and at this point he thinks everything's good. We get some shots of the FAA calling that pilot guy again, some emergency vehicles are driving to KCI in case no one dies, or maybe if they do, to get people who are losing arms or whatever from the plane crash. I'd imagine it'd be quite the horrible mess if you had a rock star landing a plane, but...
Now a Walker, Texas Ranger landing a plane.
Yes.
I've seen it. It's easy, but
he can do anything.
A rock star.
The whole world to Walker is like the digital world at Nick's computer.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's available to him.
It's a good comparison.
And I guess I've also seen a former child actor land a plane because of his flight simulator. And of course, Snakes on a Plane when Keenan does it.
Yep, that is very true. Keenan, of course, famously of the show Keenan and Kel. And I guess Saturday Night Live for the last 50 years.
I think he's still there.
Yeah.
I'd also like to point out that if Walker decided to be a hacker, he'd be really good at that too.
Of course. And all the lingo would be just as good. I got to say this, though. Craig Sheffer, way better actor than Chuck Norris.
Oh, yeah.
Not even
crazy
close.
enough.
Nick, at this point, has to hack into Kansas City International Airport.
No big deal.
For
He's
some
the best.
I guess to guide Slade onto the runway. I don't know. Mainly it's so Nick can type hack into KCI and then it does it. I don't know if he does that this time, but it works earlier for him. Then we see a lot of goth people comforting one another, just holding one another, crying at one another's shoulders. Nick is giving Slade instructions to get autopilot back on so the computer can land the plane, no big deal. Slade's pretty comfy in the cockpit now and starts humming his own music to himself, which I think rules.
He's not bothered by Rutger Hauer's brains being all over the place or anything.
Everywhere.
They definitely would be. He'd still have that little fucking grin on his face, though. Slade and Rutger Hauer, it's fucking grin fest in that cockpit. Fake Slade is not dead. He's at the cockpit door, and real Slade doesn't know it yet. Fake Slade grabs real Slade out of the cockpit. Nick doesn't know what's going on because Slade's unresponsive now, and Nick says, this is a bad time to go solo.
Because he's a musician.
Yep.
What do you mean fake Slade's in the cockpit? I thought he got kicked in the butt. You can't get up from that.
No. After a good butting, there's really nothing you can do.
Apparently he didn't do it right if fake Slade's fine and fighting him now.
Real Slade, unfortunately, has to get thrown down a set of cardboard stairs. Fake Slade misses his coup de grace finisher from the top of the stairwell. After a little bit of eye gouging, Real Slade goes ahead and lands the winning blow with a fire extinguisher to the face.
That's a good one.
I think that would work.
Would kill a man, and maybe makes up for the fact that he traps him in a plane bathroom with a drink cart he can lift with one hand.
He's like, we're good now.
Yeah, no way anybody gets out from behind that.
You just have to hope that Simon Flanders tries the door once and gives up immediately.
Which, as far as we know, is what happens. Because Simon Flanders, you guys, that's a wrap for him. The actual frightening part of this movie is over.
Well, now it has to be a plain movie for the rest of the way.
And when I say it's over, I mean Simon Flanders is not even mentioned ever again.
I think they forgave him. He was just trying to...
It's fine. Everybody's got their own beliefs.
He was confused by how excited he was about the last Slade Craven concert.
I get it. We've all been there.
I don't know what... I guess the cultist thing didn't happen and they were all forgiven. Oh, they're dead, aren't they?
Yep.
What about the rest of them, though? They had to have other cult members elsewhere.
Yeah, on the ground. I'm sure there's a lot of them. They're like, fuck, we got to try again. Rutger Hauer didn't get the job done. Nick the Hacker and Slade Craven foiled us again. They should get their own, like, Discovery TV show where they go out and foil hijackings.
I'd watch
Rockstar
that.
and Hacker. Yeah, it'd be amazing.
We've got, like, 10 spinoff ideas, and they're all awesome.
Slade gets back in the cockpit after whooping that ass and calls Nick on his little walkie-talkie and says, "Nicholas, I'm back!" Or something like that. I know he calls him Nicholas, which warms my heart. I love how good of friends they are. Meanwhile, the real pilot has arrived at Kansas City International, and he calls Nick up, and he says, "Nick, you and Slade are doing a perfect job. You're the best, smartest man, and so is Slade. I don't even know why you need me, a real pilot. I should quit. There shouldn't be pilots. There should only be you, Nick."
He's so intent on saying the bond is too strong between these two. I might mess it up.
They are one slip in jumping the shark away from saying the force is strong with these two, or something to that effect.
Because it is.
Yeah, I mean, it really is.
Drag me down and I'll become far more powerful than I can ever imagine.
Darth Sladius, I'm evil now. That's Flanders.
You ever heard the tragedy of Slade Craven the Wise?
The pilot, Jack Fletcher, that's his name, and Nick are giving Slade instructions at the same time. They need him to level the plane back out. Slade strains and grunts with his weak-ass arms, really trying to get this plane leveled out. And then eventually he moves some sort of throttle thing. I don't know.
I do buy that Rutger Hauer could do this easily because Rutger Hauer is a thicker man than Slade Craven is.
I'm going to tell you right now, Rutger Hauer and Slade Craven in a fight, Rutger Hauer totally wins.
Provided he can get up the energy.
Or wants to bother to.
Yeah, because he's mostly like Margaritavilling. He's got his hands behind his head.
He could do the Seagal thing where while he's seated in his spot, as long as you don't get near him, you're okay. But if he got up to him, I bet he could beat the shit out of him from the seat.
Just gotta avoid those hands.
Get within my punch radius, you are fucked. Joe Mantegna talks to the pilot too, and the pilot even reassures him. He says, "Look, Nick and Craven are doing the best job I've ever seen, and they love one another.
I've resigned. They get my job now."
Slade is able to re-engage the autopilot, but a light doesn't come on, which means it doesn't work. Slade's gonna have to land this baby manually. Slade then rips off his upside-down cross and starts praying to God to land them all safely.
Okay, the one thing in this movie I loathe.
Don't like it. It is funny, though.
It is kind of funny.
What I will say is this movie tries to have it both ways a lot, too, by being like, you can't judge a book by its cover, and be like, but if things get really tough, you need to believe in God. But also, Goths, they're really good people, but also one of them is going to murder and be a terrorist. You know, like, it doesn't quite decide what it wants to say.
Yeah, because early on in the movie, particularly before we find out the Flanders business, is what an absurd thing to say. They treat Slade Craven as someone who might be that asshole guy who's into the metal stuff, the stereotypical one. And then eventually, halfway through the movie, we find out, no, he's a sweet dude. He's very polite. He asks
He's
questions.
not the Razor at all.
Yeah, exactly.
And he is not Craven. He's actually very Raven.
So we get that, but then at the end of this whole thing, they got to do the religion stuff, and I don't know, it just made me mad.
Don't worry, though. Slade's going to redeem himself shortly out of sheer enthusiasm.
What if he accidentally did just drive him straight into that portal?
Well, at least we know he's saved now.
I mean, that's a pretty metal thing to do, so he should have to do it.
I can just see him like, whoopsie.
Darn.
As this demon overcomes them all.
Well, screw our miserable souls.
It was real. The KCI pilot and Nick keep advising Slade. We get lots of those shots of the worried side characters. Slade's trying to center the plane on his little crosshair screen he has and pull up. He's making all his best faces all in a row here as the movie nears its
best
end.
material.
A lot of faces going on.
He then lets out a long-faced tame scream, and the screen goes dark. The feed goes dark. Perhaps they all have died and a hell monster will swallow them up. But no, the feed's back on and the plane has landed. Everyone is safe. Nick the hacker pulls Kate close, knocking her glasses loose and perhaps giving her some ideas.
Also, like, roughly manhandling this little lady. Like, he drags her around for a minute. Yeah. And I get it. It's in the moment.
I don't think he's a big guy either, but he's really, he's excited.
They should have known, however, that clearly nothing bad happened, because earlier when the FAA tower exploded, Brandon or whatever the side guy's FBI's name is, he says something like, the line went dead, but I heard an explosion sound before it went dead. We would have heard the explosion sound on the phone.
Before the phone line went dead. But we don't. We hear nothing. Everybody's fine. There's one more hurdle, which is Slade needs to put the brakes on. But that's no big deal. Nick casually tells him how to do that. The plane comes to a stop, and Slade has one more request as we see everyone celebrating their safe landing. He says, "Hey, Nick, can you get me a way to talk to the passengers in the back?" And Nick obliges, and here's what Slade's got to say.
This is your captain, Slade Craven speaking.
Go on in for this. Sit tight, okay?
We're just stopping in Kansas City to refuel,
and then we're gonna head on to Toronto. You sit tight because we are gonna rock and roll! Yeah!
My best friend's dead!
I don't even have a band. Why would we go to Toronto?
Yeah, we're going to the most rockin'est fucking town you can find. Toronto.
This plane is a crime scene.
He just steals it, and then now Turbulence 4 is about Slade Craven having stolen a plane.
I love his fucking picnic dad enthusiasm, though, the way he comes across. Joe Montana calls Kate and congratulates her begrudgingly and says, "You know what, tell fucking Nick the hacker, Spectre, tell him a good job too." The FBI leaves. They are more confused than anything. They won't even shake Benny's hand, and I don't blame them. I don't know what's on that thing.
Coke.
By the way, Benny, the actor who plays him, his first name is Hrothgar.
That's awesome.
I like that.
You know, he's teaching you how to yell at dragons or whatever.
So what were the odds you get a movie with Hrothgar and Rutger in it? That's not good.
Not names.
No, those are rigid, strong, rocky names. Nick and Kate feel the rush of victory after this is all over, and he says, "Hey, you want to eat this cold pizza with me?" Nope, she's all business. She dangles the handcuffs, and Nick's like, "Come on! I saved all these people. I'm smarter than everyone. I saved Slade Craven, and I'm the best hacker." But when he turns around, Kate is unbuttoning her shirt to match how far his is already unbuttoned naturally. And she says, "Are you hungry?" in a British accent.
That came from nowhere.
It came out of absolutely nowhere, which might be her natural one, I don't know. And she is ready to do not an arrest handcuff, but a sex handcuff.
Do you remember earlier when you said that John Manning just whoops some ass? Well, Nick the hacker is going to do something else to that ass.
He is.
More like Nick the fucker.
And
wait, sorry, you're right.
I like it.
No, Nick the screwer.
Yeah, yeah. Or if you pronounce fucker like Lisa does in the room, kind of Nick the Facker, which is kind of a rhyme with Nick the Hacker.
Don't worry about those hackers. You're a good man.
The plane stairs come down back at Kansas City International, but unfortunately there's no slidey inflatable ramp.
That's what I wanted to see. I wanted to see a guy in fucking face paint and leather start doing cartwheels out to land on a bouncy castle.
Exactly. A slidey inflatable ramp, by the way, is part of the shared hallucination of the non-ending that doesn't exist that I had.
Oh, so you thought there was one?
I thought there was one, yes. Jen and Ethan do their pair off, as we thought, and so does the bandana fake electric chair guy and Jen's horny friend that looks like Fairuza Balk. They pair off.
Love at first sight.
Jen does a little demo reel for Ethan on camera to see what it would be like to say boring things for Z-Web TV.
He does the like, keep going, good job, or whatever.
That was good.
She's doing it flawlessly while he's doing it. His stage directions while recording are not necessary at any point. Because earlier he said
good job.
Adequate job.
This is probably why Erica hates him. During this, by the way, it should be noted that Jen does, of course, call Slade Craven a death rocker, which is not anything. No one's ever called anyone that. Slade comes off the plane with a big shit-eating, devil-worshipping grin, and everybody cheers and mobs him. And this is where my real fake memory was, where Chad Coleman and I believed Slade Craven to then say, "I knew I could do it," and thrust his arms in the air in a moment of true elementary school charm and triumph. And he basically does sort of do this. He celebrates with his couple of surviving bandmates yelling, yeah, really ineffectually. And we go to credits. That was Turbulence 3 Heavy Metal, a real thrill ride in the sky.
Boy, was it. I just love this movie. It's so much fun.
Real delight. I actually think I like it more now than I ever have, having kind of analyzed it more. It's stupid in such a pleasant little way. It goes down easy.
Well, and we've discussed how The Room and Champagne and Bullets, or Bullets and Champagne, whatever you're into, how they're their own kind of bad movie. Turbulence 3 is its own kind because it's competently made in a lot of ways. It has some competent stars. But I think the key benefactor here, outside of the goofy stuff that we see, is John Mann as the hero, because he's not a good actor.
What a surprising third act is making Slade Craven the hero there.
And he's just...
he's bad at fighting and does get his ass kicked on screen.
But it's so sincere.
That's what's amazing about it, is the sincerity there. And like you said, Van, the movie looks and feels competent in some ways, but only at a glance. When you look under the hood, everything's all fucked up and doesn't work. And that's one of the charms of it, I think, too, is if you weren't looking closely and you didn't know anything about these topics, you might think it's some sort of real movie, but it isn't really. And that's kind of great. Do you guys have a favorite character?
The Iron Cock.
Ooh, that is a tough question to answer. I mean, I guess it'd have to be Slade Craven, but
He's
Rutger Hauer's great.
Rutger Hauer would probably have to.
Nick the Hacker's great.
I went with Normad and Bullets and Champagne. now I'm totally just doing that. I went with Normad and that, so I think I would go with Rutger Hauer in this.
I'm going to go Nick the Hacker.
That's fair.
I think I'll do Nick the Hacker.
I'll just take Slade straight up then. And I normally wouldn't do that on the main character either. It feels like kind of a cop-out, but...
See, we fucked Kate over again. Not only should she get fired, but no one picked her as their favorite. And she's not that great.
It does feel to me like Slade is easier to root for than Tommy Wiseau or Rick Bodie, in that there's no weird sexism. You know what I mean? Like, there's that element to this movie, too, where you don't have to be like, anyway, so there's a really disgusting rape scene in this movie. I was glad
to ignore that.
I was glad to not have any of that in this movie.
Slade Craven was great, but there was never any thought of perfection at any given moment.
This was an actor doing his best. He didn't write this. This isn't a passion project, other than the fact I'm certain he wanted to do a good job. It was his only leading role. This was a delight to do. We're done with movies for now, though. We've done a full round of Motion Picture Men. We'll definitely do it again at some point.
So we're done as the Motion Picture Men for now.
We're done. We're going back to TV. We're going to kind of get back in our comfortable clothes now, get back in our routine, but we are reversing the order. So I'm going to be hosting the next 2 weeks again. For the first time in a really long time, it's time for me to introduce a show you guys don't know what is that we will be covering. And we're returning a little bit to a comfort zone too, in that this is a shorter show, but it is the very first show we've ever covered. And I wanted to do this. I wanted to make this a BTB first with a character whose name is Skeeter. We will be covering Nickelodeon's Doug.
I'm excited for
a show
this.
That's been on my list since the beginning. I'm starting to pick those now because there are fewer opportunities as we do more variants to just pick a show. So now I'm like, I better just, go for it more.
This is a good one to select. You and I were huge Doug fans. Spencer, did you watch much Doug?
No.
Spencer.
I wasn't a Nickelodeon.
That's right.
Yeah, he was Nicholas. We are going to be covering episodes from the show's first 4 seasons, which is its initial Nickelodeon run before Disney bought it and whatever. I don't care about that, nor do I want to talk about it much when I cover the show.
Well, they changed the voice actor for Doug, too.
And it looks cleaner and different, and it's just not... And honestly, who cares? I want to talk about Nickelodeon, Doug. Season 1, Episode 3. And this is a Steven Universe-style deal. Most episodes are split into 2 different stories. This is Doug's Dog's Date and Doug's Big Nose. The first half of the episode is about Pork Chop, the dog's romantic life. The second half is about Doug's school pictures.
I absolutely vaguely remember both of these episodes.
As do I. Then we're going to skip forward 3 years to the final Nick season, in one of the most highly rated Doug episodes on IMDb, where you can't take anything seriously, but who knows. Doug's Halloween Adventure. And this is one of the rare full half-hour episodes where it's all one story. Doug and Skeeter hear about a new ride at Funky Town called the Threshold of Death. But they're in for more than just a thrill ride because Roger's involved.
Funny, you goon.
Plus, I figured it's a Halloween episode. Why not pretend it's fall as the temperatures rise toward 400 degrees?
It's keeping with the theme of the second episode being some kind of scare-themed one.
Yeah.
So I don't know why it always happens, but does.
Although you could have saved it for when we cover Halloween episodes again if we do that again, where we pick old shows
I could have done that, but that's okay.
Oh, I guess that was Christmas. Either way.
We're going to be covering Doug before we escape the confines of this airplane and go, yeah, we did it. Do either of you have any final thoughts about Turbulence 3?
There really wasn't that much turbulence.
No, I
think we were light.
They overstated that a little bit.
They did. It wasn't a 3.
Why was that the theme of the whole movie there, the title of it? I guess really it should have just been called Terrorist 3.
Terrorist 3. I really think that, the Turbulence part, it's there because it's the only reason anyone gave them a budget. They were probably like, oh yeah, we'll just call it the movie that Ray Liotta was once in.
Do you think they based the plot around the plane, or like they knew they had to have it on a plane, so they're like, let's do this? Or they had this idea for a musician who has to fight off a cult, and then they put it on a plane?
I think that's it. I think it's the concept of like, we have our story, let's shop around and see if we can sell it to, and then TriStar or whatever was like, hey, we've got Turbulence movies.
No one wants to do Turbulence 3? Can you put it on a plane?
Hell yeah.
Yeah,
Give me
fuck it,
$60
who
million.
cares? Honestly, the first 2 plots, way more boring. They're just about normal things that could go wrong on a plane, not whatever this was.
Yeah, normal things like terrorist takeover.
Yeah, bombs. Until we talk about Doug, go to BootuInc.com, see what we've got on there. Go to YouTube. We have videos on there. Go visit the band Red Dress and listen to their first EP called Motion Picture Men Volume 1 with songs including a Slade Craven cover. You can hear that all on Bandcamp. And you know what else you can do? You can definitely listen to our Doug episodes when those come out and call your friends goons like Roger might do. But for now, let's do the hustle.